Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. I'm Eric Cain alongside Rob Lewis, Austin Price, and Brent Hubbs. Got a lot of questions to get into here today, answering those on Tennessee football, baseball, basketball, recruiting, portal, NIL, rev share, all that, and so much more. We will start with the BigOrangeCrush. How worried are you of the lack of game experience at Tennessee this year at quarterback and wide receiver? To be honest, it scares me. Guys, that's a lot of unproven at that position, offensive line, really on the offensive side of the football, Rob. A lot of those questions are going to have to be answered, and they might not even be answered in fall camp, but that's where a lot of people are pointing towards when kind of looking at preseason records and predicted order of finish and all that. Just not a whole lot of experience on that side of the ball.
Sure. I mean, I've been wading through, all the opponent previews for the past couple of weeks, and that's, and it's obvious, but that's the first thing you think of when you think about anybody's football team. Is who's at quarterback? Is it new? Are they bringing back somebody new? You got to get somebody ready. So yeah, I mean, sure. Again, it's Captain Obvious, but yeah, I would be worried about it.
I mean, Brent, when you look at it, like I'm super worried about the wide receiver room. Like it's like Chris Brazel's the only one that's played basically ever, outside of a couple of snaps for Mike Matthews last year and Braylon Staley. Everybody else has never played in the college game. And then a quarterback, it depends on who wins the battle. If it's Joey Aguilar, I mean, he's got multiple years of playing, even at a lower level, playing against some bigger schools like North Carolina and Clemson. Whereas if Merklinger wins it, again, no game experience at all. So, I mean, I think the concern, especially at receiver, is probably warranted more so than anywhere else.
Well, and the reality is you're never going to have a loaded football team all across the board. And what's happened with Tennessee is they're in a real reload, real shift on the offensive side of the ball. And so I've said this, I'll continue to say this. They have as many questions on offense right now as they had going into the 21 season, which was Josh Heupel's first year. I do think they have better answers than they've had in the past because of the way that they've recruited. The reality is that side of the ball has to get young players ready and go. Okay. And I give the defensive staff a ton of credit. They've put freshmen into situations and kind of built some things. So guess what? You don't have, I mean, Edwin Spillman's played. You're not sitting here answering, he has no game experience. Is he ready? Now, has he played a ton? No, but he has been in some critical situations. He played some meaningful snaps. They did that with Ricky Gibson when he was a freshman. So last year you felt a little better about Ricky Gibson at corner. They've obviously done it with the defensive line. Do I think they've done a great job of that offensively through the years? No, I don't. I mean, I don't think they've played I think they should have played Mike Matthews more last year, but they didn't. And so here's where they are. Is there going to be concern about it? Sure. I think anytime, Rob said it best, anytime you don't have something proven at the quarterback position in your system, in your offense, you have concerns. You have worries. That's why Tennessee's not going to be predicted to finish high, in the top 5, probably top 6 in anybody's predicted order of finish in the SEC, right? I mean, AP, we were in Atlanta. Everybody's talking about the big step Tennessee's taken backwards. And the reason is it starts because they go, wait a minute, they lost their starting quarterback the last week of April. They're definitely going to take a step.
They lost the SEC Player of the Year. And the most people like that don't understand. It's like I was on Feinbaum, and I started kind of, when I said, if it all goes terrible, 7-5, and he kind of looked at me like, that's terrible. Like he thought that would be. I think he thought that if everything fell apart, it would be worse than that. And I'm like, look at their schedule. Like, you start naming the schedule, and all of a sudden he's like, okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, they're not very good, and all of a sudden it starts clicking because again, they're all trying to cover everybody, and Tennessee right now is not in the purview for most of those guys. I mean, everybody just thinks lost SEC Player of the Year, and that's actually accurate. Like Dylan Sampson is a hard replace, but at the same time, Josh Heupel's had 3 career 2,000-yard rushers through 4 full seasons at Tennessee. I mean, they run the football, period. And a lot of that is the scheme, the way they spread it out and the wide splits, and they run the ball in empty boxes and all that. So that should tell you that, like, okay, you're going to lose Dylan Sampson, the individual playmaker, but the ability to run the football as a unit shouldn't change a whole lot. My individual plays.
Yeah, let me ask Eric. You, Rob, jump in here. Rob, you've looked at the opponent previews. Eric, you know this team. Austin said this earlier. He's more worried about the receiver position than he is the quarterback position. Fair, Austin? That's
correct.
Okay. Do you guys agree with that notion?
I mean, I think there's plenty of concern to go around. I don't I mean, I just don't. I mean, I don't like worry about Joey Aguilar, but just the fact that the guy's not started in the SEC before, I think is is cause for concern. But yeah, I mean, you flip it over and look at the receivers, and you're like, outside of Chris Brazzell, I mean, golly, is Mike Matthews the most experienced guy? How many snaps did he play?
Yes,
he is the most Braylon Staley there towards the end. I will agree with Austin in the I am more worried about wide receivers than offensive line easily. Not quarterback, though. Quarterback's the most important position in all sports. Quarterback is the most important position for your football team. I know you can have a manager, and if you run the football well and play good defense, Tennessee can go win a lot of games. That's what Tennessee did last year for the most part. But I get it. There's a ton of questions, and there's just nothing there at wide receiver that's done anything in years past. But quarterback's just too big of a piece of the pie for me. So I would have more worry about quarterback just because it's unproven. And if it's Aguilar, he hasn't done it at this level. And if it's the other two, they've literally never done it before. So for quarterback, for me, I would say is the bigger worry just because of the unknown.
Okay. I was just curious.
Or give us your answer. What do you think between those two?
There's a part of me that says you always worry about your quarterback, but then there's a part of me that says I look at Josh Heupel, and he's always gotten good enough quarterback play everywhere with whoever he's played, whoever he's had at the quarterback position. You go back to Missouri, you go back to Oklahoma, and you go back to Central Florida. So I tend to think sort of like I do with the run game. They'll be able to run it. I think they'll be able to manage it at the quarterback position. I'm just not sure if they got enough playmakers out there at wide receiver to make enough plays. So I would probably lean towards, and I'm riding too much on history and also Tennessee's history of young quarterbacks doing okay. I probably lean more towards who can they flip it out to and go make a play, and more so than who's the guy going to flip it out there to them. But I'm with Rob. Both of them are worried. I'm with the guy who asked the question. I understand why you're worried about that. It's legitimate.
They certainly have the potential of receiver, but I mean, again, Brazzell's the only one that's really played, and he's got.
They haven't played young people at that spot. You know what I'm saying? We've not seen a young person really take off there. I mean, other than year one. Cedric Tillman came out of nowhere, Velus Jones, but those guys had played.
But he played. It's so weird, Hupper, because he played Squirrel the one year. Like he had to.
Yeah.
And the kid, he had 30, 40 catches.
If the offense performs well this year, I think it only benefits this staff going forward because then all of a sudden they don't have as much hesitation would be the right word in playing younger guys because hey, we threw half the freshman class out there on the offensive side of the ball last year and did pretty well, so we can do it more going forward. I mean, look at Glenn again, playing like a guy like David Sanders, William Satterwhite, any of those guys earn a starting job, and it's the first Glenn Ellerby, recruited player to start a game going into year 5.
One more point on this, and we'll move on. Back to Brent's point about just the quarterbacks and all that and trusting Josh Heupel. Josh Heupel's also gotten the best version. Now, is that version good enough? Like, that's to be debated, but he's gotten the best version of his quarterbacks throughout his coaching career. Hendon absolutely hit jackpot there. I mean, go back and, Drew Lock and Dylan Gabriel, so on and so forth. Probably too early to know about Nico, but even Joe Milton, that's the best version of Joe Milton that's ever played college football. So Josh Heupel. So,
but is that because of Josh Heupel and that because of the system, which makes you feel better about the quarterback position? Yeah. I don't know that Hendon Hooker had an epiphany. One morning when he woke up and said, "I'm at Tennessee now with Josh Heupel. I'm gonna be the best I've ever been." I think it's the system showcased him being the best he could be.
But there was also, wouldn't you agree? I mean, we weren't at every single spring practice, guys, but wouldn't you agree that there was a year that kind of changed with Hendon? I mean, he looked passive. He looked like he was afraid to make a mistake.
Well, yeah, that's why he didn't win the job.
And then he let it rip.
Yeah. Once he started letting it rip, then he was his best version of himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said this yesterday. I do wonder, I really am intrigued to see, everybody has talked about Aguilar's interceptions. Some people chalk up last year to he had nobody around him, running for his life on the offensive line. Receivers weren't great. But he still threw a lot of interceptions in 2 years ago when he had really, really good numbers. But do the wide splits does the scheme of being able to run the football with the wide splits, does that help a guy like Joey Aguilar not to force the ball as much as maybe he has in previous systems and to see his interception numbers go down? That's the one thing I'm really intrigued to see if that happens. Because if that happens, all of a sudden it's like, okay.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think if you look at the history of Heupel, most of his quarterbacks have pretty low interception numbers. I guess Drew Lock probably threw the most of any when he was at Missouri.
They throw it a game there. I feel like they threw it more at Missouri than they did.
But, I mean, I'm just guessing on that, Rob.
He also threw 50 touchdowns.
Right. I mean, to Austin's point, they threw it all the time because they didn't even really try to run it there. So I don't know. I mean, I think this question is why this season is so intriguing, Eric. I also think this question is why so many people are like, I want to be excited, but how excited should I get right now? Everybody tells me we're not going to be very good because of this. I think that's going to make for the first month of the season, it's going to be really fascinating to watch.
Yeah. Last thing for me, Hubbard, on your point about Heupel and why you should have confidence in the quarterbacks. I don't think any Tennessee fan in the country thinks they got good quarterback play last year, and Heupel took it to the playoffs.
Really good question, obviously, because I think it's a very true question. I think there's a lot of people thinking along the lines of this question that we just read off. All right, not many times a question gets us on a roll for 11 minutes to start this podcast. Let's go to JBGee. Now that Mike Keith is back in the saddle, I thought it'd be a good time for Brent to talk about his experience working with Mike doing recruiting back in the early days, possibly any funny stories you can share.
He was just relentless. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Sunday nights meant you know, back then nobody had a cell phone, including us. I mean, I didn't get a cell phone until like 97, 98, something like that. I guess 97, somewhere in there, I got a cell phone. And so you didn't call kids from home. You went to the radio station and you went to work. So you just, official visits were over at 1:00 and you didn't get anybody on campus. You didn't get anybody as they were leaving town. You got everybody on the phone.
What year did it shift to getting them on Saturday?
Well, they did that, but that was for a newspaper feature so on Sunday morning, it was hey, the newspaper did a feature on you, and that was their recruiting pitch. I mean, none of those kids had made a decision at that point. So whatever you got on Saturday at the library, which is, you got them during the middle of their official visit. Some of them didn't even have an offer at that point when you interviewed those. So you never got a kid said, hey, I'm committed at noon on a Saturday when you bumped into them in the library. So Sundays meant 2:30, 3:00, you rolled to the station and you left, 1:00 in the morning, something like that, got a pizza in, and you just worked all night working the phones. And Super Bowl Sundays, Mike's rule is you could only call them at the half, because I guess the halftime shows back then weren't hardly as big a deal as they are now. So you didn't call during the game. You made a mad dash to call everybody you needed to call at the Super Bowl Sunday, which was late January when everybody's getting ready to make a decision. You made those calls at the half, and then you just called everybody at night after the show was over at 7. You just started working the phones until you went home. And then on Sundays, many times, and I don't think he'll mind me telling this story. If he does, oh well. Many times we did not leave. We did not leave the station. When we left the station, you stopped at the BP there on Paper Mill and bought the Sunday newspaper at like 2:30 in the morning, because they had delivered it for everybody to get for their early morning Sunday newspaper. So you read the paper before you went to bed, so you know whether or not you missed out on something, if you got beat on something in a newspaper story on Sunday night. So that was always hey, who's got late shift to pick up the newspaper to make sure we didn't miss anything there. So we don't have enough time to go through all the stories. There's plenty of funny, humorous stories. We'll do that for maybe a different date. We got a lot of other questions to get to, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. It taught me a lot about how to deal with people, for sure, through the process of dealing with it back then.
Functioning Volaholic. Does it seem like this year the disparity between how the recruiting sites are ranking players is more extreme than usual, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. You look at
Gabriel Osenda's one, and
Gabriel
then
Osenda, JB Shabazz. Shabazz on 3 has ranked 65th in the country. Nobody else has him in their 300 or whatever. Same thing, flip it with Osenda, whereas 24/7 has him number 19 in the country. On3/Rivals, it's just easy for me to say On3, but Rivals has him number 14 in the state. And so there's a huge discrepancy with several players on both sides. And time will tell who's right and who's wrong. At the end of the day, who did you beat out for those players? Or who did you lose out to for those players?
Iheartvols, what VFL has had the most interesting non-sports related career after his playing days were over, either pro or at Tennessee?
Man, I really racked my brain on this one, guy. I mean, did you guys? I mean, I know I've got to be missing something, because I thought that was a good question, and I couldn't really come up with, a really niche, interesting answer. I mean, he's Schuler's a congressman. I guess that's
the one that came to mind for me.
That would qualify, but man, I've got to be missing something.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a group of guys, Gerard Mayo and some of the guys. Of course, Mayo's a coach, but like they had some kind of investment into a healthcare facilities, seniors assisted living facilities deal company they put together up in the Virginia area, which I mean is obviously a little bit different. I know I'm missing somebody. I will say this, and I enjoy doing Friday mornings with him. I have a blast with him. I did not have on my bingo card Ramon Foster being a media. When he played at the University of Tennessee, I never dreamed he would be media mogul Ramon Foster, who would host the number one morning show in Nashville and is going to be the color analyst for the Vol Network. That was not when the Pride of Ripley showed up and started doing interviews, Rob Lewis. I did not have that one on my bingo card, that would be his post pro football career, is that he would be a media mogul in Pittsburgh and in Nashville and now on the Vol Network.
I mean, he always had personality though, just like, but it wasn't like you're talking. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. It was like your neighbor's personality, just a small town.
He was a good dude, and he always said hi. He was always polite and great.
Kind of guy that, I mean, like if you grew up in a small town, you seeing the restaurant, sit down and talk to for 15 minutes. I mean, he was at 18 years old. He reminded me of a small town farmer.
Yeah, I know it's sports related, but I mean, where do you throw Ovent St. Preux in there?
As the guy who went to UCL, the interesting thing about Ovent St. Preux, Tennessee took him in large part because of his high school wrestling career. They fell in love with him when they watched him wrestle down in Florida. And no, I mean, I didn't have him being a guy who was on a pay-per-view ticket for UCF. I would. That's
UFC.
Or you? Sorry,
Ron Jenkins had himself a. What did he do?
He had an HGTV.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great
pull.
That's a good pull, Rob Lewis. Well done. The Pride of St. Louis, Deron Jenkins.
All right. This one's from Sam Smith 2233. Cain, what do they do with Bargo and Reese? How do they get the number? How do they get down to the number after getting two guys they didn't plan on having next year? Really good question. We'll start with the back half of your question. The two guys you're referencing, Ethan Moore in the signing class and Brandon Arvinson. I mean, that was a heck of a win. One of the biggest wins on draft day is getting Brandon Arvinson back. Obviously, we know how he pitched down the stretch. So you welcome those. Ethan Moore, again, that's why I always say you can't predict the draft. That's why I always say I used the example last year with Anthony Siebert. He was going pro until he didn't. That's Ethan Moore. I mean, Ethan Moore was not coming here. Ethan Moore was going to sign a professional contract. And maybe he overplayed his hand. Maybe professional teams knew that. That's why he slid. And it got to a point in the draft where it's just like, well, this makes no sense anymore. I don't know. But he's coming here, and that's great. How do you get to the number? No clue. Then you throw in Reese Chapman and Dalton Bargo in that mix. I do think that there's an avenue back to Tennessee. I don't know for both of them. I could see one of them back here. I just think that there's a lot of moving parts right now, and I think that'll be finalized here in the next couple of days. We'll see, but I've said all along. Hold on, I've said all along between the three of those two and Cannon Peebles that of those three, I could see Reese Chapman potentially being a part of this team if things didn't go his way, and I think that still kind of stands true. So how they make that work, I don't know, but we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting how you kind of go about that, but I do think that there's an avenue for those type of players that didn't go in the draft to be back here. And then, how you make that work, I guess you just slap a DSA tag on some other guys. What were you saying, AP? I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, who, out of those two, which one is most likely to be back? You answered the question with Reese Chapman. if you're either one of those two, do you even if you're both of those guys, do you have pause because Tennessee's kind of moved on without you, and all of a sudden you might come back, but you might not find the same role that you had a year ago by coming back?
Pause potentially, but then again, like, what's your options right now? You didn't get drafted. You can sign an undrafted free agent deal, I'm sure. So maybe you're exploring some of that. There's independent ball. Your options are just kind of limited right now. So I think if there's a spot, if Tennessee can make it work, because you're moving on. I mean, everybody was working under the impression of those guys not being a part of the team. So like, I mean, just like in basketball, you moved on and we're assuming Josiah Jordan James was not going to be a part of the team, Rob. You know what I'm saying? And then ultimately he was, and you got to find a way to make it work. So I do think there's some pause, but then again, you got to just kind of survey your options. It's going back to Tennessee trumping what you can get as an undrafted free agent deal, trumping independent baseball, whatever that case may be. I think it would, in my opinion. So they're just going to have to analyze what's out there for them. But I do think there's a path back, which is really surprising because, again, I think they're like 13 over today, and they got to figure a way to get down to 34, which is, again, I wouldn't want to be a baseball coach right now. Southerner 98, with your note on Ryan Albert removing his name for the Memphis AD job, have there ever been any more Danny White guys in the 4 years have there ever been any more overtures toward Danny White in the 4 years or so that he's been here? Is there any AD role that would interest him in moving on in the future?
I mean, I think, with the contract he's got here, I don't see him going anywhere. Now, I'll say this. It should be worth noted that his buyout dropped significantly if Donde Plowman's not here. So his out is easier if she's no longer here, and she's here until 2030. But, I mean, given the contract he's got, Rob Lewis, why would you go anywhere? It stays whole the entire time. It's got automatic built-in raises in it, and it's got bonus incentives that make him the highest paid AD in the country. And I think he'll stay the highest paid AD in the country for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to start anything at all, but I just would Notre Dame would be again, know nothing. I'm just throwing it out there if somebody wants to know, if he would look at something.
I wonder if he would have visions of being some kind of commissioner and being more
that's what I think.
Involved in big picture athletics and not everyday individual athletic departments. Because obviously he's very opinionated and very vocal on where we are with collective bargaining. I think you're going to continue to see him be pretty vocal about that. So that would some kind of role there, if he could ever get that, intrigue him.
I could see with his age and what he's done here, I could see him as Greg Sankey. I really could.
WestTennessean, this is a good one. Give me your top 3 Vols, football or basketball, from the rural West Tennessee area outside
Wayne
of
Chisholm,
Memphis.
and then everybody else.
The pride of Bolivar.
Bolivar's finest, Wayne Chisholm.
Bolivar's finest, Wayne Chisholm.
I will say, I got a Wayne Chisholm story. It's actually a Bruce Pearl story, but people will love this. I guess they still do. When Tennessee goes on the road, they have 2 road games in a week. They'll have the monster truck rally in Thompson Bowling. Put dirt on the floor, all junk cars and everything. We go out there. We're doing interviews one day before Tennessee is getting ready to get on the bus and leave when BP is here. BP rolls out into the arena to do it, looks at all the dirt and all the junk cars and everything. He's like, my God, this looks like Wayne Chisholm's backyard.
Doug Atkins was from Humboldt, Tennessee. So Doug Atkins is making my list. Tim Priest is from Huntington, Tennessee.
Got to be some Paris, Tennessee Vols.
I'm going Clifton, Teague.
Jackson?
Jackson? Yeah, I can go to West Tennessee.
But that's not really rural, is it? Did he say
if you're going Jackson, I'm going Al Wilson.
Yeah, 100.
If we're
Ernest Fields.
From Milan.
From Milan. Yeah.
That's a great John Ward quote.
So it depends on how far west you're going there. If you're going into Jackson, then
it could have been Ty Simpson, but he made the wrong.
I don't think anybody's topping that list of Doug Atkins. That's pretty good pull right there. Gaterdawg, what was on the menu Tuesday? Do you guys have any must-haves between Knoxville and Atlanta?
All right, so I'm going to tell this great story. We leave Atlanta. We're both starving. We're leaving the Omni. It took, and
we didn't want to sit down. Didn't want to sit down.
So we're in a hurry. We're leaving there. We're in the Omni in downtown Atlanta, right near the campus of Georgia Tech. So what's the obvious stop, right? We're going to roll into the varsity right quick, and get a what do you have and just knock it out right quick. So Austin parks his car, get out. There's traffic everywhere. Like people are just buzzing everywhere. Somebody rolls down the window and goes, AP. And I'm like, we're in the middle of downtown Atlanta. Here's a, I think it was a Challenger. I think is what they were driving. Yeah. And I'm like, what? And it's Evan Berry in downtown Atlanta hollering at AP in the parking lot of the varsity as we go in to get lunch.
Made my day, man. It's like, the whole Uncle Austin moniker, like it does make me feel like some of those kids are like my nephews. Like, and he's one of them. Like, so again, made my day that he actually.
AP told us that earlier before we started getting on the air, and I was unfazed. I was like, yeah, that checks out. Also, I started traveling with AP, I guess, like in 2021, 22, one of those years, and going to different venues for Tennessee away games, and AP. I mean, I'm so used to it by now.
I've seen Hubbard get a shout out on the Las Vegas Strip. None of this.
Hubbard did not get a shout out driving up 75. Do I?
I said Hubbs got all kinds of love in the hotel yesterday. Brent Hubs. I didn't call you Hubbard. It was all these women too.
Oh, shut up!
All these women.
Go ahead. You're crazy.
Flyfish21, does Jamal McCoy really play this year? He's considered a high pick based on his performance last year. That seems to me like a risk. There seems to be a risk for him to play.
I mean, I think the plan is for him to play. I mean, he's working to get back and play. He's already started running. He's going to start change of direction. And when all that happens, you start getting to that point where you start checking the final boxes. He's still got bigger boxes to check, Brent, but to get to the final boxes, you got to start the whole change of direction, which either has just started or is about to start. And when that happens, you can maybe start to see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit, but they're not going to rush him back. Colton Hood's addition in the spring was big in terms of it gives him a little bit of a cushion where he doesn't have to feel rushed and Tennessee doesn't have to feel rushed to get him back.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to play if he's at risk for any kind of re-injury, but at the same time, too, he's got to show everybody he's healthy if he wants to be on draft boards next year as well. So, I mean, he wants to play. He's going to play at some point. It's just the question is he going to play in September or is he going to be in October before we see him? And we don't know the answer to that. I don't think you're going to see him in the Mercedes-Benz Dome against Syracuse. You're hoping week 3 against Georgia, but I don't know. I mean, and again, we talked about it on the 2-minute drill yesterday. Maybe Josh Heupel has learned, in terms of discussing injuries, but typically Josh Heupel is everybody's going to be fine type deal. And he did not have any kind of real update other than he was progressing. He did not have any kind of real timetable from McCoy yesterday. And that's probably Josh Heupel learning from talking about guys who are going to miss a week and they end up missing a month and that type of thing. But I think you're going to see him at some point this year. I have no idea when. I don't think anybody knows for sure when.
I read this question and immediately I'm just kind of like, well, of course he's going to play. Like what? But then again, I'm like, this is a really good question because it defines the era that we're in. Opt-outs. The putting.
Yeah, I just think if you're, to me, and the NFL may be fine with him waiting and doing individual workouts, come the springtime, versus showing everybody he's back in a competitive situation. I don't know. I think Jamal McCoy is a really competitive guy, and I think he's going to do whatever he can to get on the field. Now, if you get into late October and you haven't played, we're in a different conversation. 1st of November, we're in a different conversation at that point.
Yeah, it obviously depends on the player, and I think McCoy is absolutely doing everything he can to play. But I'm like, that's not as outrageous of a question as I initially read it last night, and I'm just like, well, because again, that kind of defines the era that we're in. And you're a good point. If you're mid-October, late October, and you're kind of one of those guys that's like, well, that is a very much a different question. But again, back in the days, it would be you're just doing everything you can to get back out there. But I think McCoy obviously is one of those guys. Shep18CL, does Eric Cain get to call a Tennessee baseball game next year? I hope so, man. I'm going to try to call one of those. I've sent some emails out. I'm going to start actually trying harder. I want to call one of those Tuesday night games. I do on the SEC Network Plus. I think that'd be a whole lot of fun. So I'm going to try to do that next year. And John Wilkerson, I've done a couple of games with him before. Dowval 5, over under 1.5 starting quarterbacks this year for us, Rob Lewis.
I'll go over. I mean, and I'm not preaching controversy. I mean, just injuries happen. I think that could happen.
Contact sport.
I'd definitely take over.
AP, you taking the over or the under here?
I'm going to go under.
I'm tempted to take the under as well.
I'm going to take the over because, like Rob said, contact sport.
Yeah. I mean, how much do they run the quarterback? Maybe somebody gets hurt. How much of it is, I don't know that they're thinking of this from the – I don't think he asked the question based on somebody getting hurt. I think he's asking the question for whether or not they're going to need to start two different guys at some point this year.
Well, from that perspective, then I would go under right now. That's my opinion.
All depends on how somebody plays in that opener.
That's right.
You know? Here could be the other thing. I don't think this is what Josh Heupel has any desire to do, but you know, sometimes you have to play two early in the season to let it sort itself out because it just is. That's not Josh Heupel's MO, particularly as a former quarterback. But I was talking to David Cutcliffe for the story I did on the 92 game. And he's like, we had to see it in game to know, like, because I mean, Jerry was, from a productive standpoint in practice, Jerry was probably the better quarterback in practice from an accuracy and all those things. But then there was an it factor with Heath when he got into games. And sometimes you have that happen a little bit. And I think that was Hendon Hooker. I think there was an it factor when he got into games that
Dobbs.
You didn't see. Yeah, Dobbs, and you didn't see that on the practice field. So do you have one of those situations? I don't know. My guess is Josh Heupel wants to play one, and that's his goal.
Third and Chavis, who is your weekend rotation for next spring? You like that handle, AP?
Yep.
Weekend rotation for next spring. My top two guys are Landon Mack, the transfer from Rutgers, and Tegan Coons, who is just tore it up in the Cape in 3 starts this summer. And then it's going to be interesting for who's going to be that third guy. I think Evan Blanco, who I continuously want to call Henry Blanco, Greg Maddox's former catcher. But Evan Blanco from Virginia. I think Cam Appenzeller, you know, one of the two lefties in that signing class that made it to campus. I think he can be in that conversation. Brandon Arvinson can 1,000% be in that conversation now, and that's a guy that we didn't anticipate even talking about. I think Braden Krenzel and Anthony Siebert as well. So you went from about 2.5 weeks ago to not having many options in terms of starting pitching to having about 7 that I just listed right now. But 2, no matter what, Landon Mack, Tegan Coons, and for the sake of it, I guess I'll just call my shot. Give me Brandon Arvinson because I've seen it and I know what he's all about. Who is your midweek starter? Good question, because I think midweeks are going to change. You don't have 37 pitchers that you can throw on Tuesday nights anymore. So I think you're going to have an actual midweek starter, in my opinion. So, you know, for me, I think that can be Nick Abraham. I think that, let's see where Anson Siebert is. If he's not a factor on the weekends, maybe it's him. Maybe it's one of those freshmen. But I think you're going to start seeing actual true starts in the midweek.
Are you saying we're not going to see 6 pitchers in the last 2 innings of a game for 6 outs?
I don't think so. Brent, I know you're upset about that, but I
not as upset as you are.
Yeah. I need that time to write. It was actually welcome at some points in times. But I think that's kind of exciting. And what about Blaine Brown? Remember the two-way player? Now, he did not excite anybody on the mound this year for Rice. Could he have a bigger midweek role? I don't know. It's interesting, but I would say probably Nick Abraham for now.
Who do you think has the best chance to be the closer on this team?
I don't know. It's a good question. I have no clue.
By committee?
Probably by committee. Brady Frederick is certainly not the closer. Rudy, but I feel like you want to get more out of him. Hendy's a specialist. Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, maybe Rudy, with the transfer portal commit from Kennesaw State.
Rudy.
Yeah, that's probably my leader. Braden Krenzel, you want more out of him. Yeah, that's a good question. You don't have a Nate Snead that's sitting there right now. After the this is from Mallou. After the Syracuse game, which will be the one player on both sides of the ball that we're talking about?
I'm deferring to Rob Lewis on this one because he's written the Syracuse preview. Where are the Cuse weak, Rob Lewis, on both sides that Tennessee will take advantage of?
Yeah, they have lost so much from last year's team. Regardless of that, though, I'm just pulling these out. I'll go Caleb Harry and Mike Matthews.
Austin Price?
I'm going to go Braylon Staley and Edmund Spillman.
All right, we're taking the quarterback out of the equation on this question.
Yes, I agree.
We're going to be talking about the quarterback.
Right. Regardless. So the quarterback's not a factor here.
He's either going to be the greatest thing ever or awful.
I'm going to go. Austin stole mine because I think the slot receiver will get a bunch of balls. So I was going to go Braylon Staley. And then on defense, I'm going to say Joshua Josephs.
I'm going to go Caleb Herring and Braylon Staley. So we all kind of said a lot of the same, but Caleb Herring is the first one that came to mind, Rob. And it's the first one you mentioned as well. James 007. Second pass at an all-time role player discussion. Any sport could be a story about an extra point injury guy being selected to someone coming off the bench and giving enough go to push him over the finish line for a W. All-time role players.
I mean, this one's it's easy for me. I mean, it's Dane Bradshaw. For me, I mean, football. I mean, I think it's football. A good football team probably has 20 role players.
Yeah,
it's
hard to pick a football guy.
But I mean, basketball, I think it's easy for that, and it's it's been overplayed forever. But yeah, I mean, it's Dane. I mean, I think the fact and I think Dane would tell you this himself. The fact that BP put him on that all-century team or whatever was ridiculous. But because he's an all-time role player. I mean, just what do I need to do? I'll go do it.
Yeah, I don't know football wise. I mean, Rob's right. There's so many of those guys, right? I mean,
a good football team, you're going to play 50 guys on a Saturday, and you get 2 or 3 stars.
Yeah, I mean, look, Lane's year they played the Sullins twins for one season on the offensive line. Now they were starters, so that's not by definition role player, but I mean those were 2 guys that came out of nowhere that were good. I mean, now Montario Hardesty made them better, but I mean. Nobody saw that one coming. I didn't see Nick Reveiz having the career he had at linebacker, with Monty Kiffin being the defensive coordinator there. So, but again, I think there's a ton of football guys you can go with. That's a hour-long discussion on a bunch of football guys the last 20 years.
I think it's kind of difficult to do baseball as well, but just a guy that came to mind in recent memory and also national championship season. Nate Snead and Aaron Combs in that bullpen, they both had so many different roles for Tennessee, and they both pitched about every single game in Omaha. Kirby Cannell, but we kind of knew what his role was. But do you need 4 innings from Aaron Combs? Okay. Do you need him to get the last out to clinch a national championship? Okay. Do you need Nate Snead to start? Okay. Do you need Nate Snead to come in and close these 2 games? Okay. I think those 2 guys were very versatile in the way Tennessee used them, especially in that run in Omaha to win a national championship. All right, we'll go to David Keith Fan. I thought Tony V knocked it out of the park during the draft, no pun intended. But there was some criticism from non-Vol fans, shocker, that it's inappropriate and an unfair advantage for him to be on the broadcast. Your thoughts on that? I mean, I'm sure there's some guys that would do a fine job in that role, but Sully's not doing that. Tim Corbin absolutely can't do that. Jay Johnson's not doing that. I mean, Tony he's got the charisma, he's got the wit, he's got the smarts, and he's got the knowledge of this league because obviously he's a coach in this league and the SEC dominated the draft. So Tony kind of checks all those boxes, and I mean, he did it first in 2022. They embodied it back in 2024. They embodied it back this year. I mean, obviously, he's doing a pretty good job. So, yeah, if I'm an opposing coach or fans of other teams in the conference, I'm sure I'm not too happy with that whatsoever. But it's kind of one of those where it sucks to suck, I guess. I don't know.
It's not ESPN's job or the major, MLB Network's job to be fair to Arkansas fans. I mean, they want good TV, compelling. Like, was it fair for Coach K to coach the Olympic team for 20 years? No, but when you're excellent in your profession, you get some opportunities.
Very good point.
Yep. Of this past year's freshmen on the baseball squad, are there any draft eligible sophomores? I don't think I'm missing any, but Tegan Coons, Manny Marin, Chris Newstrom, and Jackson Walker. Walker redshirted this past year. I believe those 4 are the draft eligible sophomores. Not Jay, not Levi. I think those are the 4. Thrashers, what's the status of Boo Carter playing some offense? Was Heupel asked about Boo Carter at SEC Media Day?
I'm not aware that he was asked about Boo Carter. I think, Austin, that's all on Boo Carter. How much can he mentally handle? Yep. And obviously how much can he physically handle? But I think it's more about how much can he mentally handle His primary focus is, and his primary job is on defense. They want to play him on offense. It's all about how much Boo can manage himself in terms of what that role looks like offensively. That's my opinion. That's my belief on where it stands.
Absolutely. It all boils down to Boo Carter. And at this point in time, I would look for him to have more of a package than I would be for him to be out there for play after play after play on offense.
Athrun's got a couple questions. Now that the draft is over, how did we fare in terms of the baseball roster for next season? Very good. Very good. Had a couple of portal guys get drafted that you didn't really anticipate. We'll see what DJ Newman's going to do. My anticipation is that DJ Newman will sign. Mason Estrada is going to sign. Matt Barr was always going to sign. Cruz Schoolcraft was drafted in the first round. Of course, he's going to sign. But you won Brandon Arvinson. You won Cameron Appenzeller. You got Ethan Moore to campus. You had a really Henry Ford, like you won that one. Evan Blanco. I mean, Tennessee did an excellent job and 1,000% won the draft, in my opinion. Rob, the international kid, does he have any chance to get on the basketball roster?
I mean, yeah, he's got a chance. I mean, talking with some people, the past couple of weeks, it's the timetable is something that I don't have a handle on, and I'm not sure that anybody at Tennessee does either. But yeah, I mean, short answer, he has a chance.
Do you think you can draw similarities between Aguilar and Hooker from a mental standpoint in terms of maturity and approach due to his age? Not saying he has a leg up, but the mental side is different if you're 24 as opposed to 18 or 19.
Yeah, I mean, API. I mean, I think it's only logic that a guy who's thrown for 7,000 yards and he's played 2 years of college football and he's an adult. I mean,
he's older.
He's just older. I mean, I think do you handle adversity better at 24 than you do when you're 18 or 19? I mean, probably, because when you're 18, most kids, particularly kids who are, college football players, haven't dealt with as much adversity in their own personal life. I'm not saying they haven't had adversity, but from a football standpoint, for a lot of those guys, it's not been real hard, right? It's all come pretty easy for you. So, I mean, here's a guy whose journey is, junior college to App State to thinks he's going to be at UCLA. Now he's at Tennessee. I mean, he's got to be a little mentally tougher because of his journey to get here. Does that make him the guy? No, but is his perspective on things a little different than Jake Merklinger's is? Probably. Although I don't know everything about Jake Merklinger's life story, but there's more tread on the tires for Joey Aguilar.
Great answer.
Shut up.
No, it is. It's true. I mean, there's nothing more I could add to that. I mean, you hit the nail on the head.
I like that look.
I mean, think about it. Like a kid that has kind of grown up a certain way, didn't transfer a bunch in high school, has seen and may have had some adversity versus a kid who, didn't get their way at one school, bounce to the next. I mean, you just it's different. I mean, Aguilar went JUCO. He got his time in there. He went to App State, and then after 2 years, decided he was going to go try to play his final year of eligibility at UCLA, and then somehow get traded for Nico, and basically in so many words. And I mean, he's seen some different things than maybe Merklinger has, who just played his high school ball there in Savannah and then came here.
I know we're talking about the age and the mental makeup and all this when you're comparing Aguilar to Hendon Hooker, but from the football side of things, I think they couldn't be any different though, right? I mean, Hendon didn't throw a lot of picks. He was very cautious. I feel like he didn't throw a ton of Virginia Tech, but whereas Aguilar's just kind of letting it rip throughout his career so far.
Well, and listen, remember this, Hendon Hooker got benched at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
I mean, he lost his job. And so, I mean, there's a different layer of adversity to where, Joey played 2 years at App State and then went off to greener pastures, for a better deal back in California. And then obviously he's here now. So, yeah, I mean, I think outside of age, their journeys are certainly different.
Which sport will have the biggest expectations going into next season of all the sports on campus? All of them have expectations.
I would say hoops. I mean, one, you can turn a roster over, Rob, in such a short fashion, an easy fashion. You don't need 30 new guys like you do in football. Obviously, baseball's always got. I mean, he's right; they all have expectations. But I think when you have a perceived lottery pick and Ament and everybody that you've got in the portal and everything, I think there's probably a ton of expectations on this hoops team.
Yeah, I would say that as well. I mean, and because of what we would talk about at quarterback, I think the expectations are pretty I wouldn't say low, but nobody's expecting, national championship for the football team this year.
All right, a couple more. We'll do rapid fire here. Zjsvols, call your shot. Which elite targets are going to sign with Tennessee? What excites you about this recruiting class and the current commits, Austin?
I will go Tennessee lands Savion Hyder.
Whoa.
Well, again, they want me to call my shot. I mean, to me, it's still very close. I wouldn't say Tennessee's by any stretch some big favorite to land him. I'm just calling a shot. I feel like they've got a better chance there than they do with Keys. Just my gut feeling. And then they'll land one of those edges. Either Givens, they'll flip from Texas A&M back because he really liked Tennessee to begin with, or Hezekiah Harris, one of the two.
CBD Thompson, if you could choose one pitcher and one hitter for next year's baseball team from players in the Vitello era that have not made the major leagues or drafted in the year 2024 or 2025, who would you choose? Loaded question. Drew Gilbert, 1,000% is the first name that came to mind because he is knocking on the door. He's hitting 240 in AAA, but he's hit like 10 bombs and all that since he's been out there this year. But Drew Gilbert was number one for me. And then number two, like you look at a lot of the pitchers that I was going to take, they've already made their big leagues debut. I guess Chad Dallas, but also I know you said not from the 24-25 draft class, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm sorry. Give me AJ Causey. AJ Causey's already up to AA. I think his unique arm angle is going to get him up to the pros pretty soon. And obviously we know how big of a deal he was here at Tennessee as well. So a couple of names that were worth mentioning. Last one here. Obviously, defenses have adjusted over the last few years, but if Tennessee's offense can get back to hitting more deep shots early in the season, do you think the tempo would get back to where we are used to seeing it?
Yeah, I think it would help. I think they want to go fast after chunk plays for sure. They're going to slow it down on third down, but you also got to remember the sideline rule, which anything that goes out of bounds on Tennessee sideline in the chalk over there, they're going to hold it up and you're not going to play tempo. But yeah, I think you need explosives to get the tempo going the way Tennessee really wants to get the tempo going. So yes, to answer his question, I think it would help.
All right, that's going to do it here for this edition of the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. We do it every single Thursday here at Volquest.com, on the Journal's Quarters, YouTube channel, wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening to us, not a member of the site, come join us. No better time than join us than right now. We got fall camp. That's what we're here for, guys, right? Fall camp's coming up in less than 2 weeks. Recruiting still going on right now. Tennessee baseball roster assemble. All that and more. Notes from the Tennessee basketball team. You can find them on the Journal's Quarters every single weekday right here at Volquest.com. Check us all out for $1 first 7 days. Give us a try. $1 for your first 7 days over here at Volquest.com. Appreciate you guys for joining us here. A lot going on. Rob Lewis, Austin Price, Brent Hubbs. I am Eric Cain. We'll talk to you again tomorrow on the Journal's Quarters.